Hey there. So today I want to address a really important topic, both in life and in being a freelancer. And I'm just sharing my own experience because I think this isn't talked about enough. And I just really want to bring awareness to it and share with you tips that I have found really help. So, over the last quarter four of 2024, I had the biggest increase in my income and made the most money that I have ever in business or freelancing, whatever you want to call it. And in my mind, previous to this, I always thought, okay, the more money I'm making, the better things are. Like it's just this upward trajectory of the more money you're making, the happier you are, the more money you're making, the less problems that you have, etc. And I actually found it to not be the case for me. That doesn't mean that it's not the case for everybody, but I just want to be really honest and transparent about it. So, like I said, October through December was the biggest quarter I've ever had, but my mental health was really not in a good place. So, I actually was in a really good place coming into quarter four. October, I started a new role, had these two roles, and it was really, really great. And September, I was just gearing up for it, had some really good habits going on. I was meditating daily, I was walking daily, and I just felt like I was in a really good place, both emotionally, physically, not financially, obviously, because that's why I took this other role. But other than that, I just felt like I was walking into this with such ease, and I thought that it was just going to enhance my life in so many ways. And what I want to notate here is it's not that it hasn't enhanced my life. I'm so grateful for making more in the last quarter. I'm so grateful for this job role. I'm so grateful for learning more. And it's been a good change, but at the same time, like I also want to just be transparent that it's been a very hard change. And it's not necessarily the freelancing that's bringing it on, but I will go into some of the things that I think are happening here. But I do want to bring awareness to signs I noticed that my mental health was declining and then things that I'm doing to try and get it back on track. Currently, it's middle of January, and I still feel I don't know if I would classify it as burnout because I am still able to work every day. I'm working 7 days a week, which I'll go more into that in more depth in this video. But I've been able to show up for my roles. I'm still walking. I'm still doing business trainings. I'm still functioning, but I just don't necessarily feel like myself right now. And I'm just trying to get in these habits to make things better. And I think that it's really hard, but also really good filming this and putting it on YouTube because I know that more people are in this place. And I also really want to share and show my own growth, mostly to myself, because I really want to be at a different place at the end of this year, 2025. I absolutely don't want to go through another holiday season feeling so depressed and so sad. And so I definitely think what I do throughout the year is going to impact that. And I have no doubt that things are going to get better. Like, I fully believe that this is just a season right now and I'm going to get through it. But I want to be honest in the season that I'm in because I think that it can only help me, it can only help other people, and I think just being honest and transparent is the best policy. So, nothing particularly bad happened during this time, and I think that people usually associate like depression, anxiety with like this major event went on. I did have a big event go on last year, and I think that it's still impacting me, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't, and I am working through that. But I think when your overall stress goes up, then those other things that are coming out maybe are things that you haven't dealt with in the past. And so I really kept like almost, I would say, hitting this wall of like, I'm so exhausted. I'm putting my everything into work. I'm also trying to maintain these other habits. And then all of a sudden all these other things are coming up that I didn't do either from last year or culmination of 2024 and just stuff that went on. So it's not that I didn't talk about them. It's not that I didn't seek support. It's just when you're already in a heightened state from working a lot, I think those things come back. And I think also you revert sometimes to old coping mechanisms. And that's what I really found to be true during this time is, before I was walking, I was meditating, I was doing all these awesome things. And it felt good because I felt like I had control over things. But when you're pushing yourself to your mental limits, you almost want to go back to like the people that aren't in your life anymore, or you want to go back to something that feels comfortable or a habit that's not serving you. And so I definitely noticed this during this time. And here's the things that I really noticed that I started to identify, like, oh, there's definitely a problem here versus I'm just tired. So I was crying daily. This actually started sometime in November. It was just every single day I would wake up and feel so overwhelmed with everything I needed to get done. And I just didn't feel like I had anything to look forward to. And that's not saying that there's nothing to look forward to in life. I just didn't feel like, okay, well, I just got to sprint through this period and then I'll have a vacation here, or I just need to get to the weekend. Like, there was no day for me to get to where it felt like, okay, like, this is the end of it, because I'm really good at doing that, right? Of like, okay, it's crunch time, we gotta get this done, and then we can relax. But I saw nowhere in my future where I could relax because I foresaw this going on until all of my debt is paid off. So, like the next 2 years. So, all I could envision when I woke up is I'm going to be working every single day for the next 2 years. I'm never going to go on a vacation. I'm never going to make friends or have anybody in my life that can understand what I'm going through. And it just felt really lonely. And I know that those are absolute statements, and I can completely hear in my voice and what I'm saying that those are not true. That's super extreme. Of course, I could take a vacation during this time. Of course, I could take a day off. Of course, like, I can make friends, but it's just that's how I felt internally. And I think that's been a really interesting thing, is working through this with a therapist and noticing that I know all the right things to do and I can see the flaws in my thinking, but I think accepting that emotionally is very different than knowing it logically. I also noticed I like did not want to go anywhere. And this has been going on for a while now. And it's really frustrating because anytime I do force myself to get out of the house and be around, especially be around other people doing an activity or whatnot, I always feel better. And I think the first time that I actually felt better during this time period, I had gone to a event at somebody's house and it was like making cards for Christmas. And even though crafts and stuff isn't my like number one go-to thing, I felt like a human for the first time. And I remember driving back and like it was almost just tears of joy of like I felt like I had conversations with people and I was seen as a person, and I just felt good for the first time in quite a while. And the next day, like again, it was like waking up and realizing, oh, I've got to do all these things. And so it's just the cycle kept continuing, losing interest in things I loved. So one of the things that I've really been struggling with is flying recently. And I'll make a new video about this. I really want to make one about this. And before I flew, like flying was one of my favorite things to do. Going places was one of my favorite things to do. Exploring was one of my favorite things to do. And I realized even if I had the money in my bank account to take a trip internationally, I don't know if I would. And that was really heartbreaking to me because that's been a goal of mine for so long. That's something I really want to change and get into this year. And it is a big goal of mine to be able to work abroad. So just realizing that I couldn't even get on a domestic flight. Like, it was so bad. I canceled, I don't even know how many flights I canceled, but I canceled one before the holidays and it was super heartbreaking. And even getting on a flight after the holidays was just this huge thing where I just didn't want to do it. And I felt so much anxiety and then depression about it. So that was another sign for me that things have got to change. Like I said, going back to old coping mechanisms. So even if you have like the best routine, what I noticed is just looking for comfort in things in years past that aren't necessarily applicable, but it just that's what my body was defaulting to. And just doing anything was hard. So sometimes just getting out of bed was hard. Sometimes just getting dressed was hard. And this was a really big difference between September and October, which felt really good, and then November and December, which was just this like soul sucking journey, it felt like. So I know that the holidays were probably a contributing factor. I think that if you're feeling anything, it's kind of heightened during the holidays. So if you're feeling joyful, like it can be a joyful season, but if you're feeling sad, it could kind of like highlights the sadness and the loneliness. So yeah, that was really difficult. Like the holiday season I feel like was difficult, and I'll also say that there was a lot of good moments in it. It wasn't all terrible. There were definitely happy times. There were times where I did feel happy, and I just want to be super, like I said, honest in this video about the fact that, like I said up here, thinking that the biggest quarter or month in business is going to relate to the most happiness isn't necessarily true. And maybe it will be true in the future. I'm not sure. But I think the biggest thing, like, I could make all these excuses of like, oh, this happened. But I think the biggest thing is like, ultimately, my habits slid. And going back to the 7-day work week, because I think that a lot of you listening to this, hopefully you clicked on this because you care about mental health, or you are also trying to prevent your mental health from declining. But if you're here just kind of analyzing what's going on, you'll be like, why is she working 7 days a week? That's insane. And that's a lot of the feedback I'm getting from the people in my life. Like, everyone around me can really see that I'm just not in the happiest space that I've been in. And a lot of people have said, like, why don't you just take one day off a week or the weekends off? And I just don't see a way to do it right now. And hopefully that changes. I'm working on trying to make a change here. But yeah, right now I'm kind of dealing with competing priorities of trying to stay in the roles that I'm in, trying to get financial abundance, but also trying to take care of my mental and physical health. So right now I am up against a 7-day work week. And so I think it's just trying to figure out how I can take care of myself while doing this, while also in the back of my mind trying to figure out, okay, where is a way where I could even just start with one day off a week or one day off every couple weeks. So that is something I'm working on. But if you're a freelancer, or even if you're not a freelancer, but you own a business or you're working two jobs, you can be stuck in this space where it just feels impossible to take a day off. And I think that that has been a big contributor to why I'm in this mental state that I'm in right now. Um, I don't think anyone's meant to work 7 days a week. And again, like, I'm aware that that's a problem and working on ways to fix it. But right now, I'm just trying to do the best I can to preserve my mental and physical health while also working 7 days a week. So I tend to like drop things when things are going well. And I think I mentioned this in one of my meditation videos, and I'm going to do a meditation update of where I'm at with that currently. But when things are going well and I get really busy, I tend to drop it off. So that's why I want to make this video, because I think that when I declare what I want on YouTube and other people have watched it, one, it keeps me more accountable to myself. And two, again, I just want to see the growth in myself over time. But basically, here are the things that I'm doing. So if you relate to how I am talking right now, how I'm feeling, what the last quarter was like for me, what taking on this responsibility was like, then hopefully these tips will help you. And yeah, so let's get into it. So one is reaching out for support. So one of the things that I kind of cut back on prior to going through this period was therapy sessions. So I've been working with a therapist now for since September of 2024, 3, September 2023. So throughout that year, the first 6 months, I was meeting with her weekly. Like, I was going through it, I was going through different programs. Like, it was just every single week I was meeting with her. And then I think towards summer, we cut it down to every other week just because there wasn't as big of things going on. And I had like regained some semblance of like, okay, like, I'm feeling more stable, things are going better. I did have kind of a dip at one point during the summer, and so of course I reached out for therapy for that. And then kind of going forward, again, I felt like I was in a pretty good place. So one, I was trying to save money by not using these, and two, like, I just didn't think that I needed to revisit the same thing every single week. So every other week, and then I think maybe even in October, September, October, like, I did like once a month just to kind of keep the relationship going, talk through some things. But I just was in this better place, right? And it wasn't a decision that I came to alone. Like she felt the same way as me. And so collectively, we were like, okay, we don't need to do this as often. But then when this happened, obviously, I kind of went back to, I need this more. And she agreed. But at the same point, it's been really interesting because even reaching out to her, and I did reach out to another mental health professional, like they're not necessarily seeing that there's something like wrong, like I have like this mental disorder or anything like that. Like what I'm saying is coherent and how I'm working through it is making sense to them. Like I'm using the tools that I learned, but it doesn't feel good internally. So that's one thing I'm doing is kind of just getting back into having a consistent rhythm in therapy until I feel like, and my therapist feels like it could go longer. And to be quite honest, like they feel like it could, but I guess I'm just doubting myself right now. Reaching out to friends and family, so those who are there for you, I would say it's a really good time to do that when you're feeling overwhelmed. Even just going to lunch with somebody, even just getting on a Zoom call with somebody can completely change your day, and leaning into collective communities. So, as a freelancer entrepreneur, I am a part of a few communities. So, really leaning into those and creating friendships. Like I said, loneliness was one of the biggest things I was feeling just because not everybody gets what this is like. And so, even just talking it through and hearing other people say, oh, yeah, I remember that time when I grind super hard and here's what helped me, or I'm going through that period, or like this is the financial stress I'm feeling. And so you realize you're really not alone in it, that a lot of people are going through it. And that's why it's so important for me to make content like this on YouTube, because I think that the more we're transparent about it, the more it becomes this collective where we can support each other, not like commiserate with each other of how hard things can be, but lift each other up and recognize that, hey, this is a season and this is going to help me fulfill my goals. And here, here's just some support and encouragement. Okay, next thing, staying on top of my physical health habits. So, another like dumb thing that I did was I kind of cut back on my vitamins. Again, I don't think this was like a very logical choice. I had been taking vitamins since beginning of March and they really helped restore my energy levels. They were vitamins that were recommended by a naturopath with the evidence of like the blood work. So I knew why I was taking them. I knew what levels needed to change. However, I hadn't had my blood tested in a while. And so I was like, I don't know, I feel like things are going well. Maybe I could cut back a little bit. And my face also started to break out. And so one of the things I read is if you take too much of this certain vitamin that I was taking, that could lead to breakouts or whatever. So I just kind of cut myself back, planning to do lab work at like the next month. But the problem there was I cut back and then I had absolutely no energy. So I don't know why I decided to do that when taking on more work or at the same time, but lesson learned there. I got back on track, started taking my vitamins as scheduled. I'm not going to make any changes whatsoever at this point in time until I have like a clear plan moving forward of what I need to change. So, yeah, that was a big lesson. Don't quit your vitamins. I didn't quit, I just cut back, but like don't cut back without either having blood tests in hand saying that this is why you should cut back, or talking to someone, or even just having communication of like, hey, I'm going to cut back, but like if my energy levels drop, this is what I'm going to do. So I think I tried to cut back for maybe 2 weeks and it just was a huge flop. So anyway, it did take a couple weeks to kind of get back to feeling energetic again in that physical sense. But I think some of it too was just the burnout. Taking daily walks, the weather got super nasty, and I know that that's an excuse. So, one thing that I did do is in two locations right now that I'm in, I have like walking pads, or the house that I'm staying at has like a walking pad. So, that mitigates me not walking when it's stormy and rainy and cold out. But yeah, I think movement's important. Obviously, if you don't have a walking pad or you can't get outside, there's so many ways to do movement. I could have been doing yoga. I could have found a way to move my body, gone to a shopping mall and just walked around, but I did not choose to do that. And I think that impacted things too. Other thing is staying hydrated and eating regularly. When I get stressed, a lot of times I cut back on eating and I have a problem with blood sugar. So that just cascades into so much more. So again, just noticing that I need to be eating 3 times a day. Like, work is not worth not taking care of your health. If you have back to back meetings, like schedule block in there so you can eat. Lesson learned. I can't do that. I need I need a lunch break. I need a snack break. I need snacks at the desk. Like, everything I need to do for my physical health that I was neglecting because I got so lasered in on I just need to like push myself for work, and I stopped doing that. So, okay, staying on top of mental and spiritual habits, listening to encouraging talks, meditation, reading, all those things really help me. Obviously, find your own encouraging talks or your own form of meditation and reading, but for me, those are things that I know that helped. I completely stopped reading books. I'll do a meditation video going into what that process was like. And I wasn't prioritizing any of this. And that's got to be number one. Like, even if you get slightly less work done, I think that these are key in terms of keeping you motivated and keeping you just encouraged. Cutting out bad habits. So, one of the things that I think I said earlier around you default to your old habits, this is one that I got down pretty low. I think it was either like April, May, June of this year. Like, I cut my social media consumption like really in half, and I was doing really well with not looking at social media. And then slowly the habit crept back in. And so when I'm stressed, I'll go to social media and I work on social media. So it's a little bit of a catch 22. Like, which one am I doing? But one thing that I did during this time, which I think was absolutely helpful, and I would recommend it to everybody, is Instagram is a platform that I get on a loop with so much of. Like, I logged in and then it's like, where did the last 10 minutes of my life go? What really helped me is one of the things that's such a time suck is those stories at the top. And the more people you're following, the more stories you're going to see. And so I didn't unfollow people. I think I did unfollow some people. Let me like preface that. It's not that I didn't unfollow anyone, but what I did mostly is mute people. So anyone that I felt like wasn't going to have like a story to encourage me, wasn't going to that I was comparing myself to, like, I just muted everybody. And it's so good because now everybody I have on Instagram where I see their stories or posts are mostly like mentors or people that I like aspire to be like or I'm learning from. And so it's a really small group of people. And what's great about this is no one knows like who you've muted, who you haven't muted on your Instagram account. Not that that really matters, because I think that people can be really understanding about that because they know it's such a time suck. But yeah, it's really made a difference. I don't get quite as stuck on there. Sometimes I still do, but if I do, it's usually in a loop of like business like business tips, health tips, motivation tips. So that's kind of what I did. And then just constant consumption of other people's lives, I think, is not healthy, especially when it's a peer and you're comparing, or you're like, why are they doing this and I'm not, or seeing like a lifestyle. It's just, it doesn't help with when you're feeling bad. Okay. 5, finding motivation and encouragement. So, like I said, listening to business trainings always inspire me, inspirational YouTube videos, having entrepreneur friends, or just friends in general, really. But I think that when you are taking on kind of more work projects, talking through it with another entrepreneur is so great. Having goals to look forward to. So, whether that is like a vacation, a big milestone, this thing that you're going to get yourself, a walk you're going to take, like, I've noticed it doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to be I'm flying to Europe tomorrow. It could be I'm going to read my book for 2 hours tonight, and that's super exciting. And I'm going to take a bath, and I'm going to get in like really comfortable clothes and have really good lighting. Like, it could be something simple. And so I'm really trying to lean into that. So basically, at the end of the day, I think that habits are really what keep me on track. And even working 7 days a week, I think there is a balance of being able to sustain your mental health and sustain what you're doing in work. and having an end date to when you're gonna work, like stop working those 7 days a week. And what I'll say is, like, what I've really learned is success isn't like this huge push all the time where it's like, oh, I thought of this thing and we're gonna do this. It's like, it really is the adding up of habits in your daily life, and doing the boring things day in and day out is really what's gonna get you to that successful state. And staying consistent with your routines, being really honest with yourself, seeing when things are sliding, what you can do to get back on track. Like, it's never too late to get back on track and just get back to what you love doing. So, I hope this video was helpful. If any of you guys relate, please let me know. You're not alone here for sure. And I hope that this, I don't know. I guess I don't really know what I hope for. Like, I hope that you're not in this situation, to be honest, but I hope that if you are feeling down, that these tips help you. And yeah, hopefully over the next few months, you'll definitely see a big shift in what I'm doing with these habits and how it's impacting my mental health and how I'm feeling better. And I really hope to look back on this at the end of the year and be like, okay, this is where we started in January. And this was, the beginning of the road. And because I was so honest with myself, and because I really analyzed my habits, and because I reached out for support, things did get better. And here's where I am now. So that's the goal. Thank you so much if you watched this video, and I will see you in the next one. I definitely don't think I'll be doing a ton of videos like this, but I do want to be raw and real about mental health because I think it's huge. But I do want to share more about business things I'm doing, things I'm working on, and just things to help you guys grow too. So thank you so much, and see you in the next video.